So hello everyone, welcome to 10 Days of Pleasure. This is day number 7 already, and I'm freaking excited because I'm here with holistic menstrual coach Jaime. She's also a good friend of mine, and today we are here to talk to you all about pleasure and hormones. So first, Jaime, can you just say hi and introduce yourself a little bit? Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Cool, so excited to be here. Yeah, so I am a holistic menstrual coach. Basically, I help women connect to their menstrual cycle, and I am also a fertility awareness educator, so I help women understand how to read their bodies to manage their fertility naturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so let's dive right in. So can you just share with us, kind of on a general level, a little bit about female hormones?
Yeah. So our female reproductive hormones, they have a huge influence on pretty much all of the systems in our body. So they are impacting our emotions, our physical energy levels, the way our brain functions, our immune system, our digestion, our connection to self, our intuition, creativity, I could go on. It impacts everything. So this is why it's amazing to learn about how our hormones are functioning in our body and what they're doing.
Yeah. And so what are the main female hormones? I know we hear like estrogen and like what else is out there? What else is working with us?
Yeah, there's actually over a dozen hormones, but the ones that we mostly focus on are estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and then LH and FSH. But today we'll mostly be talking about progesterone and estrogen.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's just dive right in. Pleasure. How do these hormones relate to pleasure?
Yeah, great. So I would love to start by just talking a little bit about each phase that we move through in the cycle. So there's basically 4 phases in the cycle. There's menstruation, pre-ovulation, ovulation, and premenstruation. So what I'd like to do is go through each phase, and tell us what's going on in each phase from a hormonal point of view, and then how that's impacting our access to pleasure and our intensity to pleasure and orgasms.
Yes.
Yes?
I'm already excited.
Great.
Dive right in.
So, I also refer to a seasonal framework. So I'll start with spring. Spring is our time of pre-ovulation. What's happening in the body? The hormones are pretty low because we've just finished menstruating. Estrogen is starting to rise. With estrogen starting to rise, this brings a sense of playfulness and curiosity as we are emerging from our time of rest and from this very inward time of menstruating. So starting to come out with this playfulness and curiosity. And this is a time when our yoni is actually a little bit drier than other phases in the cycle because of the fact that the hormones are low, and it's estrogen that brings this fluid and lubrication. So it's a great idea to reach for the coconut oil or some kind of lubrication to access greater levels of pleasure. Yeah. And the desire, the libido is starting to build in this phase naturally as we head towards ovulation. So a really lovely time to just get in connection with all aspects of the body and really connect with foreplay more during this phase. So take things a little bit slower, and if you're with a partner, asking him to engage in more foreplay.
So is that, I'm just kind of making connections here, is that because, as you said, there's not as much lubrication that's happening naturally, and therefore more foreplay with a partner or yourself presumably could be more supportive?
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. I love that because, like, you know, I hear women say all the time to me, like, what's wrong with me? I'm not getting wet, or like I'm not as wet as I think I should be, and maybe it's just because they're in the springtime of their cycle.
Yeah.
And
totally.
nothing is wrong. It's actually very, very natural.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's beautiful. And how we can leverage the spring energy is get creative. So try new things. That might be new positions, it might be new places to have fun with yourself or with a partner. Just allow your creative energy to come through and explore.
Amazing. I just had this fantasy of going off into all my favorite nature places during my springtime of my cycle and having a little self-pleasure ritual there.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so then we have summer.
Summertime. What is happening in the summertime? I've got an idea, but I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Yeah, so summer is ovulation time. It's when estrogen and testosterone levels are at their highest, which means that a woman tends to feel more confident and outward going, more energized and more sexy. So libido is at its highest, so leveraging this opportunity. And because of the estrogen being at its highest, the vagina is the most moist or wet out of the whole of the cycle. In fact, it's up to cervical fluid is what is really lubricating the vagina, which is up to 20 times higher than any other time in the cycle.
Wow.
Yeah, so you've got that natural lubrication.
Amazing.
And it's much easier to access orgasms in this time, and the intensity can be a lot higher. And we're actually primed for multiple orgasms at this time.
Amazing.
Yes.
Beautiful. This is another thing that I love what you're saying about the estrogen and about how it's, I think you said 20 times, it's 20 times higher. So another thing that I hear from women a lot is almost like a shame or embarrassment with the fluids that can come out of their yoni. And because I practice the fertility awareness, I already know that it very naturally is flowing more during this time, but it's just to say that I love what you're sharing because it helps to normalize the natural functions of our body. Like, we are juicier and wetter during this time. Fluid can just be coming out of us and nothing's wrong. Actually, things are very, very right.
Very, very right and very, very healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, perfect. Love that.
Amazing.
So the superpower or the gift of the summer phase is communication. It's the way that the brain is functioning during this phase. It's optimizing our ability to communicate really well, not just verbally, but through all of the other ways that we, like body language and empathy and so forth. So utilizing this, if you're in a partnership, by sharing your needs and your boundaries and exploring your fantasies, really leveraging that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And I can think even for women who aren't in partnerships that could be a good time to journal about your deepest desires. Like, what are those those things that are like really feel like they could move you? Seems like a good time to get in touch with those.
And talk about it with your girlfriends.
Exactly.
Invite them over for chocolate
Totally.
and tea.
And do some manifestation rituals with them.
Yes, because you're totally magnetic during this phase as well. So manifesting, absolutely. And going along with the magnetizing, or the magnetism. So if you are looking for a partner or a partnership, then this is a great time to go on dates. Enjoying your confidence and sexiness and magneticness.
Oh, I love this. So it's like there's a time in the cycle that's good for dating. This is amazing.
Totally. Yes. Okay. So then we have inner autumn, which is the premenstrual phase. This is quite a long phase, so the deeper you get into autumn, the more the energy starts to come back into us, withdrawing from the outside world, feeling a little bit tender, the need to slow down. Our cortisol levels are resting higher, so it's easier to feel a bit of irritation in the system, in the nervous system. So how this plays out, your yoni is again or the vagina is going to start to feel drier, less lubricated from the lack of estrogen. So again, feeling shameless about reaching for the oil or the lubrication for optimizing the pleasure. Again, taking time for foreplay and taking, so I would say the libido is more naturally lower or at its lowest in this phase. So there may even be a complete lack of desire to connect in this phase or to the orgasmic pleasure. But there is still a way of tapping into pleasure, and it can just be through the really subtle touch of our body and a gentle breast massage and just the pleasure of slowing down. Oof, like oof. Yum. Yes. Yes. So yeah, this is time to just accept whatever is, listening to the body intelligence.
Yeah. Beautiful. There was something else that you said in there that you keep on like throwing these nuggets of wisdom that are really sticking with me. You said that our cortisol is naturally higher during this time, which means that we feel more stressed, which again, it's like I hear so many women saying like, I'm crazy, what's wrong with me in my premenstrual phase? And it's, again, nothing's wrong with you. Like, our stress levels are naturally higher. And somehow, just by having that knowledge, and then, we're here talking about pleasure, so we know scientifically that pleasure actually decreases cortisol, and it decreases our stress hormones. I think Diane was even talking about that yesterday in the video on menopause and pleasure. So what if we could naturally counteract the stress hormones that are there during this premenstrual phase with gentle, loving pleasure, sensual pleasure, sexual pleasure?
Yeah. Beautiful.
I love it.
Gorgeous.
So tell us about winter. What's happening in the winter?
So winter is the time of menstruation. And this is an interesting time to talk about pleasure. Naturally, our hormones are at an all-time low, and this is why the uterus releases and sheds its blood. And it's a releasing time not just of the physical blood, but a very emotional release, emotionally releasing time. And we have a very natural desire to be withdrawn from the outside world and to be with ourselves. Can be very soft and tender and sensitive. So the libido can go either way. I know many women are asking me, why is it that I feel sexual on my moon time? And it's fascinating. I feel like there's a few reasons, but it's more of a physical reason rather than the hormonal reason. So what we've been talking about today is how the hormones are influencing the access to pleasure. But this is more physical because the uterus is heavy. So it's pushing down and is resting or pushing pressure down onto the pelvic floor, which is stimulating the labia and the clitoris, the nerve endings. So there is all this action starting to like move around and activate, and then the blood is obviously increasing and creating some like swelling to the area, which is what stimulates us and activates the libido. Yes.
So interesting. I mean, I'm fascinated by this because one of the things I love to teach about is blood flow, actually, and how blood flow and, even just breathing deeply into the yoni, like almost like finding all these different hacks to increase the pressure or the energy or the blood flow, literally, in the pelvis and in the pelvic floor. And it's so beautiful to think that that's just very naturally happening during our menstruation.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I love that.
The female body is so cool.
We're just basically wired to have pleasure all the time, I think.
In different ways, which is so beautiful because there are so many different ways to experience pleasure other than, you know, like the kind of conventional way of just go for it and like, you know, you have to experience orgasm and it needs to look this kind of way. It's like, it seems like this model almost gives us permission to explore and try other types of pleasure.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So, so the yoni is obviously releasing blood, and if there is a desire to enter the vagina, then again reaching for lubricant, because we see it as, it can be easy to see it as a wet phase, but blood is actually drying. You know, if you get it on your skin, you notice it dries. So yeah, definitely using something to support your pleasure and comfort. Yeah. So the thing I wanted to touch on was about this can be a very naturally inward time, but if there is a desire in some form of partnership to explore intimacy, it can also be a very beautiful, sacred, healing experience to do this. To do this with someone and alone if you're moving through the process of healing your relationship with the menstrual blood as well. Letting go of the taboo of what society has said about our relationship to blood, and this is the perfect time to explore it and deepen our relationship with it as something that's so beautiful and beautiful and magic.
Yeah, I just love that invitation to explore, because it seems like it can support in so many ways. Like you said, getting us more comfortable with our own blood, but also I think I've heard before about orgasm supporting cramping, and how like just bringing in pleasure can support women to alleviate some difficult symptoms physically or emotionally that they might be experiencing.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, if you've got any cramps or a headache, then reach for the natural pain relief.
It's wired right into our bodies.
Yeah, exactly. So
Wow.
that's kind of a wrap on the winter and the seasons.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good. So if there were something that you wanted to leave all of our listeners with, or like an end point, or like another little tidbit of wisdom or something, what is it that you would love to send them off with?
There's two things.
Please. If there's three, that's fine as well.
So, firstly, I want to caveat that what I've just shared with you is a framework. Yeah, it's a framework, this seasonal framework. It's knowledge that is based on how the hormones are functioning and how they are known to influence certain systems in the body, and it's useful to know this. It's really useful to know where you're at in your cycle, to chart your cycle and know, because it gives that like a constant reminder of the permission of, oh, I'm in my autumn, of course I'm not feeling sexy, or, you know, so it's always this reminder to have the permission to feel the way you feel. And no matter what I've said to you, it's always about coming back to the body intelligence. So if you're in your summer and you're not feeling sexy at all, then please don't feel like you're supposed to be. Yeah, it's like your body intelligence is the most important thing to listen to. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. I just think that there's so much value in learning about these seasons, not only as they relate to a menstrual cycle, but as they relate to our entire sexuality in general. I remember learning about a similar framework, like a seasonal framework, as it relates to our pleasure. And even though we're here talking about it in relation to the menstrual cycle, it could be that you're in like a phase in your life that you feel like you're in a 6-month-long summer, or a 6-month-long spring or autumn or winter or whatever, in, you know, generally in your life, but also in your pleasure. And that's okay. Like, it's totally fine. Like, if you're like feeling horny and like ready to go all the time for a period of time, embrace that prolonged summer period. And if it's the opposite of that, if you're in a winter time where you're really needing to go deep inside for a period of weeks or months or even more than that, that's beautiful, because we know that the cycles change and that winter eventually moves its way into spring in its own rhythm and its own timing. And when we can really deeply honor the seasons that are there in our bodies and honor the phases that we're going through in our sexuality and our pleasure in our lives, I just think it brings a greater level of acceptance and ease and joy for living.
Yes.
So thank you so much for bringing this in.
Thank you.
Yeah. So can you share with our amazing listeners just a little bit more about what you are doing, how they can find you? I know, because Jamie's a good friend of mine, that she has a lot of amazing programs and her knowledge is just so rich in these areas and a whole lot more. So I really want you to be able to have a way to look her up if you're curious to deepen your embodiment and knowledge in these areas. So where are you? Where are you online, etc.?
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Very kind words. So I invite you all to jump into my Facebook group, which is called Cyclical Living for Women. We'll put the link in the post. And I'm running a 10-week online course called Menstrual Magic. It's an immersion where we basically go into all of this, but not just pleasure, all areas of your life. So it's really about how to live in alignment with your menstrual cycle, which just brings a wealth of benefits. Yeah, it literally ripples out into every area of your life. It's hard to summarize in a sentence.
Yeah, totally. I really believe that this, sometimes I refer to it as like optimization of the menstrual cycle and like living in accordance with it and knowing it and working with it. I feel like it is one of the most important foundations to any sort of work with the female body and to feminine embodiment work in general, because every person with a female body has or has had a cycle at some point in their life, and to really learn how to work with it, it's empowering and it's freeing, and it also, like Jamie says, it benefits every single area of your life. So I really highly recommend jumping in this course if you are feeling it. I know many women who have participated in past rounds and just like raved about it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's juicier than ever before. I'm so excited. So it starts on the 10th of June.
Amazing. And what's your website? Where can they go and find more information on that?
Yeah, www.jamielauren.coach. We'll put the link down below as well.
We'll put the link below.
Amazing.
Amazing. And who are you on Instagram? What's your name?
Who am I? I don't even
You
know.
can create a new identity on Instagram if you want.
I think
Something
probably,
magical, maybe?
I think probably Menstrual Magic.
I think probably Menstrual Magic on
yeah,
Instagram
I'll
also.
throw it down in the rest of the links.
Can I just say I love that you're Menstrual Magic, and yesterday with Diane, she is Wild Menopause, and I'm just like, these names!
Oh, I love her.
Yes.
I love her.
Yeah, she's so great.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
again.
so much for being here with us, Jamie. It's such a pleasure to share this time with you and to be able to share this information with all these amazing people who are tuning in. So I'm wishing you such a beautiful day wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're still listening, remember that on the last day, which is Monday the 31st, I'm guiding a live practice of Yoni Love ritual on Zoom. So you can find the links to that in some of the other posts in the group. So join us and enjoy. Ciao, babies.